Officer Simmons sees a black woman behind the wheel and assumes she's just another threat to control. Another report to write his way. But what he doesn't know, Monica Jackson is a decorated Navy SEAL, and the courtroom she's headed to will expose him. Stick around, because when the footage hits the news and #Simmons falls trends worldwide, his badge won't shield him. It'll shatter him. Justice isn't waiting behind closed doors. It's about to hit center stage. Where are you watching from? And what's the time there? Let us know in the comments below. Subscribe to join our community. Officer Bradley. Simmons' boots splashed through puddles as he approached the vehicle, each step reinforcing his sense of authority. The rain drummed against his patrol car's hood, creating a backdrop to what he assumed would be another routine display of power. His badge gleamed under the streetlight, catching droplets that made it shimmer like a personal star. "License and registration," Officer Bradley Simmons barked, shining his flashlight directly into Monica Jackson's eyes, expecting the usual flinch. But she didn't flinch. Her steady gaze in the rearview mirror sent an unfamiliar ripple of irritation through him. The woman's hands remained at 10 and 2 on the steering wheel, her movements deliberate, calculated. "Is there a problem, officer?" Her voice carried the kind of confidence that made Officer Bradley Simmons' jaw clench. Something about her composure felt like a challenge to his authority. "Step out of the vehicle." His hand instinctively moved to his holster, a habit born from years of unchecked power. The rain intensified, and somewhere behind him, he heard the distinctive sound of a phone camera starting to record. His body cam light blinked steadily, but he barely noticed it anymore. As Monica Jackson emerged from her car, Officer Bradley Simmons saw something in her stance that triggered his deepest insecurities: military discipline. Before she could speak, he grabbed her arm, spinning her around. "I said stop resisting!" "Sir, I'm not!" Her words were cut short as he slammed her against the car, his badge pressing cold against his chest. "Officer Bradley Simmons, badge number 6741, requesting backup for an aggressive suspect," he spoke into his radio, even as bystanders' phones captured the truth. The hashtag #Simmons, shame PD, would be trending within hours. Though he didn't know it yet, a voice cut through the rain. "That's retired Navy SEAL Lieutenant Commander Jackson, your manhandling officer." The words came from an older man stepping out of a nearby car, his phone steady in his hands, live streaming every second. Officer Bradley Simmons felt his world tilt slightly, but pride kept his grip firm. "I don't care if she's the Secretary of Defense. She's resisting arrest." Inside his head, a voice whispered, "When did power become my only language?" Each badge promotion, each commendation reinforced what I already knew. Authority means never having to explain yourself. But tonight, something's different. Why isn't she afraid? The rain suddenly felt colder on his neck as Monica Jackson spoke calmly, despite his grip. "Officer Bradley Simmons, I suggest you check your body cam footage before writing your report. The truth has a way of surfacing." His badge felt heavier than ever as more phones appeared, more lights cutting through the darkness. The question hung in the air like the suspended raindrops. Would his authority survive the night when truth and power collided? Type, "Power corrupts," if you've ever witnessed authority gone wrong. The familiar weight of his badge, usually a comfort, now felt like an accusation against his chest. Officer Bradley Simmons maintained his grip, but something had shifted. In all his years of service, no one had ever made him question his actions in real time. The rain continued its relentless rhythm, each drop another witness to a power dynamic about to shatter. Looking back, I always thought power was about making others submit, each promotion, Each commendation told me I was right. But standing here in the rain, watching those phones record my authority in action, something feels different. When did I start confusing fear with respect? Have you ever felt your certainty crack like ice under spring sun? The next 24 hours would reveal just how fragile his empire of authority truly was. But for now, Officer Bradley Simmons stood in the rain, clutching both his badge and his illusions, unaware that this routine traffic stop would become his point of no return. Officer Bradley Simmons stares at his computer screen, the cursor blinking accusingly as he crafts his report. Each word feels like a fortress against the truth, but the walls seem thinner today. 20 years of similar reports, each one a masterpiece of misdirection, but this one's different. The precinct's fluorescent lights cast an unforgiving glare on his badge, the metal catching reflections that seem to mock him. Officer Bradley Simmons reaches out, adjusting its position on his desk. A habit born of pride, now tinged with something unfamiliar. Uncertainty. His phone buzzes again. Badge Lies climbs higher on Twitter's trending list, accompanied by a grainy video of his encounter with Monica Jackson. His stomach churns as he watches himself, seeing his actions through thousands of strangers' eyes. The comments beneath the video pierce his carefully constructed armor. Another power-drunk cop. Check his record. How many others? Captain Torres passes by, her usual friendly nod notably absent. Officer Bradley Simmons remembers her words from academy training. Power isn't about force, it's about responsibility. He'd smiled then, already knowing better. Sergeant Matthews had taught him the real lessons in the patrol car. It's us versus them. Write it clean, keep it simple, and the system works for us. His fingers hover over the keyboard as memories surface. 10 years ago, another complaint buried. 5 years ago, a similar situation diffused through carefully worded paperwork. The system had always protected Officer Bradley Simmons, wrapped him in layers of bureaucratic immunity. But Monica Jackson's military ID fills his screen, her decorated service record a stark contrast to his fabricated assault charges. A new email notification catches his eye. Internal Affairs requesting his complete service record. Officer Bradley Simmons's hand trembles slightly as he reaches for his coffee, remembering a study he'd dismissed during mandatory sensitivity training. Systemic bias in law enforcement creates self-reinforcing patterns of discriminatory behavior. His phone buzzes again. The video has reached CNN. The precinct's usual bustling atmosphere feels suffocating now, as younger officers whisper behind their monitors. Officer Bradley Simmons realizes they're watching too, their faces reflecting a mix of recognition and revulsion. A deep dive into his record would reveal the pattern, a statistically impossible number of resistant suspects, all fitting a particular profile. Each incident justified, each report immaculate. The system hadn't just protected him, it had enabled him, encouraged him, promoted him. Have you seen the numbers? A voice carries from the break room. 87% of his traffic stop escalations involved minority women. Officer Bradley Simmons's coffee turns bitter in his mouth. Statistics had always been weapons in his arsenal, proof of problem demographics. Now they're turning against him, revealing a truth he'd never wanted to see. The weight of his badge grows heavier as he opens his personnel file. Commendations built on foundations of sand. Promotions earned through selective enforcement. A career constructed on countless small injustices, each one rationalized, each one adding to the edifice of his authority. Inner reflection. 20 years wielding power like a shield, believing it made me untouchable. But sitting here, watching my carefully constructed reality crumble, I'm forced to see what I've become. Every complaint I buried, every report I twisted, they're all coming back, rising like ghosts from perfectly filed papers. Have you ever watched your life's work transform into evidence against you? Officer Bradley Simmons's phone vibrates one final time. A message from his mentor, Sergeant Matthews, now retired. Delete everything. Lawyer up. The game's changed. But as his finger hovers over his digital history, he realizes it's too late. The truth, like Monica Jackson's unwavering gaze, won't be intimidated into submission. Type, "Truth hurts." If you've ever seen someone's perfect facade crack under the weight of their own lies. The precinct's walls seem to close in as Officer Bradley Simmons confronts a terrifying possibility. Perhaps he isn't the hero of this story. Perhaps he never was. Officer Bradley Simmons stared at his computer screen, watching his reputation disintegrate in real time. The security footage played on loop. Each viewing revealed another damning detail he'd tried to hide. His hands trembled as he watched himself aggressively approaching Monica Jackson's car, his body language betraying prejudice he'd always denied harboring. The precinct hallways, once his domain of unquestioned authority, now felt like tunnels closing in. Every passing colleague's footsteps made him flinch. Officer Matthews, his partner of 3 years, walked past without acknowledgement, the silence more devastating than any rebuke. Simmons Falls trended relentlessly. His phone buzzed with notifications, each one a fresh wound. The viral video had reached CNN, and their coverage stripped away his carefully constructed narrative. They'd uncovered everything: his previous complaints, the pattern of targeting minority drivers, and now this. Footage of him confronting a decorated Navy SEAL. Bradley clutched his badge, the metal cold against his sweating palm. This symbol of power that had once made him feel invincible now seemed to burn his fingers. He remembered polishing it that morning, proud and certain. Now, barely 8 hours later, it felt like evidence of his downfall. "Internal Affairs wants to see you immediately," Captain Reynolds announced from his doorway, his voice carrying none of its usual warmth. The words echoed through the office, drawing all eyes to Bradley. The whispers started immediately. He could feel them like tiny needles in his back. His computer pinged with another news alert. The military community was rallying behind Monica Jackson. Her service record scrolled across his screen. Distinguished combat missions, presidential commendations, training accomplishments that made his own credentials look insignificant. Each detail hammered home the magnitude of his mistake. "Have you seen the body cam footage from the other angle?" Officer Chen whispered to her partner, loud enough for Bradley to hear. "Shows everything he conveniently left out of his report." Bradley's hand shook as he tried to log out of his computer. 3 attempts to type his password, each failure another crack in his composure. The precinct security cameras seemed to track his every move, just as they had captured his confrontation with Monica Jackson. Nothing felt private anymore. The evidence room door closed behind him with a hollow thud as he sought a moment of solitude. His phone illuminated with another notification. Local news wanted a comment. The hashtag had evolved. #Simmons Falls Hard. The body cam footage had gone viral on YouTube, already at 2 million views. "I always knew he'd go too far," he overheard Detective Martinez say outside. "Just didn't expect it to be with someone who could fight back so effectively." Bradley's fingers traced the edge of his badge again, remembering how he'd wielded its authority like a weapon that morning. Now it felt like a mark of shame. The weight of it dragged at his uniform, each step harder than the last, as he headed toward the Internal Affairs office. The security footage played on every screen he passed, his actions displayed in high definition. His voice on the recording sounded foreign, filled with an arrogance he barely recognized. Monica Jackson's military ID glinted in the footage, a detail he'd willfully ignored in his power-drunk moment. "Type justice for Jackson if you want to see real change," scrolled across one of the news feeds. The comments sections flooded with veterans sharing their own stories, each one another nail in the coffin of his career. His phone buzzed one final time, a message from his union representative. "Don't say anything. This is worse than we thought." Bradley sank into a chair, his badge catching the fluorescent light. In its reflection, he saw what everyone else now saw. Not a protector of the peace, but something far darker. The precinct's walls seemed to close in as he waited, each minute stretching into eternity. Through the window, he could see news vans arriving, their satellite dishes reaching toward the sky like accusing fingers. His empire of authority was crumbling, and he was trapped inside to witness every moment of its collapse. Have you ever watched your world unravel in high definition? Share your story of facing consequences in the comments below. Officer Bradley Simmons stood rigid before the police review board, his eyes fixed on his badge lying cold and silent on the polished mahogany table. For 15 years, that shield had been his armor, his justification, his truth. Now it mocked him, reflecting the harsh fluorescent lights like an accusation. The rustling of papers echoed through the chamber like autumn leaves heralding winter's approach. Each document Chief Martinez picked up felt like another nail in the coffin of his career. His hands trembled slightly, a weakness he'd never shown before, as he watched the evidence of his misconduct pile higher. "Officer Bradley Simmons, we have reviewed the body camera footage from yesterday's incident." Chief Martinez's voice cut through the silence. The screen behind her flickered to life, and Bradley Simmons watched himself again, his past self radiating an arrogance that now made his stomach turn. The viral #badge lies flashed across his mind. His daughter had texted him this morning. "Dad, you're trending, and not in a good way." 3 million views, countless shares, his actions dissected and condemned by strangers worldwide. Monica Jackson sat in the front row, her military posture unchanged from yesterday's confrontation. But now, seeing her service medals glinting under the fluorescent lights, Bradley Simmons felt something crack inside him. The weight of his assumptions, his prejudices, pressed down on his chest like a stone. "Your body camera footage contradicts your initial report," the Internal Affairs investigator stated, her voice clinical. Ms. Jackson's hands were clearly visible at all times. She followed every procedure perfectly. Would you care to explain the discrepancy? Bradley Simmons opened his mouth, but the well-rehearsed excuses dried up in his throat. Behind him, he heard the soft click of a news camera shutter. Tomorrow's headlines already taking shape. His voice cracked. "I made assumptions. I saw what I wanted to see." The words hung in the air like smoke. From the corner of his eye, he caught sight of his reflection in the window, uniform pressed, shoes shined, the perfect image of authority. But now he saw what everyone else saw, a man whose power had corrupted his perspective. His phone buzzed silently in his pocket. Another social media notification. The world was watching his fall in real time. Badge lies had spawned Simmons falls, and both were trending nationally. "Officer Bradley Simmons, This board has uncovered 7 previous complaints filed against you, Chief Martinez continued. All involving similar situations, all involving minority citizens, all dismissed without proper investigation. Each word landed like a body blow. The pattern was clear now, laid out in black and white. His past actions formed a damning constellation of bias, each incident connected by the thread of his prejudice. Monica Jackson shifted in her seat, the movement drawing his attention. Their eyes met briefly, and in that moment, Bradley Simmons saw not the threat his corrupted mind had manufactured yesterday, but a decorated veteran who had served her country with honor while he had betrayed his oath to serve and protect. Before this board renders its decision, Chief Martinez's voice softened slightly. Do you have anything else to add? Bradley Simmons looked down at his badge one last time. His fingers traced the edges that had once felt so sacred. I do, he said, his voice steadier than he felt. I was wrong. Not just yesterday, but for years. I let this badge become a shield for my prejudice instead of a symbol of protection for all citizens. The silence that followed felt like judgment itself. Behind him, phones recorded his confession, adding another chapter to his viral downfall. But for the first time since this nightmare began, Bradley Simmons felt something close to peace. The truth, however painful, was finally free. Drop a 1 if you've ever had to face your own prejudices. His badge sat untouched on the table as Chief Martinez read the board's decision. Bradley Simmons didn't reach for it. He'd lost the right to wear it long before this moment. He just hadn't known it until now. Officer Bradley Simmons, this board finds... The words that followed would end his career, but perhaps they would begin his redemption. Officer Bradley Simmons stares at his reflection in the holding cell's metal surface, barely recognizing the man who, just 24 hours ago, believed himself untouchable. The fluorescent lights cast harsh shadows across his face, highlighting every line of defeat etched into his features. His fingers absently trace where his badge once rested, now just an empty space over his heart. I spent 15 years wielding authority like a weapon, he whispers to himself, his voice echoing off the cold walls. The sound of keys jingling outside his cell makes him flinch, a sound he used to create, now controlling his world. The viral hashtag, Simmons Falls, still trends on every screen he glimpses, a digital monument to his downfall. Through the cell window, he watches Monica Jackson emerge from her final press conference. The media swarms around her, microphones thrust forward like accusatory fingers. Her military bearing remains impeccable, just as it was during that traffic stop that now feels like a lifetime ago. The sight sends a wave of shame through his body, so intense it makes him physically recoil. Officer Simmons, the prison guard announces, using his title with deliberate irony. Your attorney's here. The sound of his cell door sliding open carries the same metallic screech as his handcuffs did during the arrest. His lawyer's face tells him everything before a word is spoken. The body cam footage has gone national. His attempts to doctor the evidence have only amplified his crimes. CNN's headline scrolls across the break room television. Former officer faces federal charges. Systemic racism exposed. His former colleagues walk past without meeting his eyes. The wall where his commendations once hung now displays a department-wide memo about mandatory bias training. I didn't just lose my badge, Officer Bradley Simmons confesses to the internal affairs investigator, his voice cracking. I lost my illusion of righteousness. Every traffic stop I ever made, every person I ever profiled, it was all built on prejudice I refused to see. The recording device between them captures each weighted word, each painful admission. The courthouse corridors feel endless as Officer Bradley Simmons walks toward his arraignment. The same walls that once amplified his authority now witness his disgrace. Monica Jackson sits in the gallery, her presence a testament to Justice's patience. She doesn't smile or gloat. Her victory lies in the system's acknowledgement of truth, not in his destruction. His former badge, evidence tag hanging from its edge, sits on the prosecutor's table. The metal no longer gleams. It looks tarnished, corrupted, a perfect reflection of what it had become in his hands. The defendant weaponized his authority, the prosecutor declares, using his badge as a shield for bigotry. In the final moments before his plea, Officer Bradley Simmons raises his eyes to meet Monica Jackson's steady gaze. Power without accountability isn't authority. It's corruption, he states for the record. I apologize not just to Ms. Jackson, but to every person whose dignity I violated while hiding behind this badge. The judge's gavel falls with devastating finality. Officer Bradley Simmons' badge will join others in a new police museum exhibit about law enforcement reform, a permanent reminder that justice eventually finds its way home. His story becomes required viewing at police academies nationwide, his fall from power a lesson in the price of unchecked prejudice. If you've witnessed power corrupt, drop a 2 below. The setting sun paints long shadows through the prison bars as Officer Bradley Simmons begins his sentence. On his bed lies a letter from Monica Jackson. Your greatest service to law enforcement began the day you lost your badge. He carefully folds the note, finally understanding that true authority comes not from power over others, but from the courage to face one's own truth. Share this story to remind everyone that justice may be delayed, but it's never denied. Simmons falls.